name's Nick Gee. I came from Bristol originally. I worked in the aircraft industry for what was British Aerospace and later became Airbus. And I used to come over here caving in the late 80s, early 90s. We ended up diving in the sea caves around Doolin, Mermaid's Hole. This is 1990. And then we moved inland to the Gort Lowlands and worked there. I actually moved here in 1996, and I'd seen sense by that time, and I'd given up the diving while I was still alive, and I'd gone the other way. I bought an aeroplane.
Good to find all.
It's
Second-hand.
came as a kit. Not that expensive. A lot of people here probably got cars worth more than that. It's classed as a microlight, and it's 450 kilogram max weight. It's aluminium tube and Dacron sailcloth. I can cruise economically at about 150 kilometres an hour, and I can go down to sort of about 60, 70 for taking photos. It has an annual NCT job, just like a car, and so do I. I have an annual medical, and it's insured. And strange enough, the insurance on that costs less than the insurance on my car. And
So any trouble with Shannon and
I was just about to say, flying around the Burren area, all airports have restricted zones around them. It's basically like an upside down wedding cake. You go out 10 miles at ground level, then you go up 2,500 feet. And then we've lost it. You go up 2,500 feet and you go out another 10 miles and up 3,500 feet. And most of the Burren is under 2,500 feet. We were called Dark Shamrock. There were four of us.
so would you be clocked on Shannon radar or something
Yes.
and find or something?
You've got to have a thing called a transponder, which transmits your code from your aircraft to the radar. They can see it on the radar at Shannon, so they know who you are, they know where you are and how high. And if you bust into their zone, you're likely to get an invitation to go and see a man somewhere. And if it was bad, you could get taken off the air for a while.
And you did it in a balloon once.
If we start our tour, right, we've taken off and we're overhead Parkmore Quay in Burren, looking west. Most of my photos would be taken from about 1,800 feet, that sort of area. If you fly at even numbers like 2,000 feet, you're likely to meet other people. If you fly at odd numbers like 1,800 or 2,100, you're less likely to meet other people.
What other people? Aircraft. Helicopters.
You'd be surprised. Helicopters,
Sea rescue.
big agricultural drones. So first stop is Ocknish, and that's used to be connected to the mainland at Linham's Bar, and it's been an island since the Lisbon earthquake, which was the first 1755 at 9:40 in the morning, which was All Saints' Day, and the earthquake they have estimated was of magnitude 8 or 9. So Lisbon was destroyed. Big fires followed, and then an hour or so later there was a massive tsunami which killed about 50,000 people in the area. But the tsunami made its way this far, and it broke through the channel at the back there. I spoke nicely to the cat, and the cat let me borrow her laser.
Very good.
It broke through there, and Ocknish became an island. And not
Surprisingly, it's quite deep there as well,
The
isn't it?
tsunami got as far as Galway, and the Spanish arches became the Spanish Arch. Actually knocked a few of them down. So Auchnish was an island for a number of years, 100 years I suppose, and then the Napoleonic Wars came along, and the British wished to build Martello towers around the place, and they built a causeway and reconnected it, and they built their Martello tower. So Auchnish is the only bit of Clare that you have to go through Galway to get to.
The indignity as well.
There's Linan's Bar, just so you know where you are. One of the things on Auchnish, there's a children's burial ground, which is the D-shaped thing there. A lot of burial grounds turn up in ring forts, old ring forts. And when you see it from the air, you know, it looks almost as though there is the other half of the ring fort in the field next door. But we don't know. Going on a little bit further, Abbey Hill. And something you'll notice on a lot of these shots, where the glaciers came from the north into the hills, the north face is nicely smoothed off. So Abbey Hill, and then we move on. There was Auchnish there, Flaggy Shore, Loch Murray with the swans. I think that's called Loch of Oreen. Yes, Loch Oreen, Loch Murray. Another Martello Tower.
The one on Auchnish still had cannon in it.
Yes.
Oh, well, there were two, but one broke.
There's one, the one at Auchnish is now a privately owned. That's
right.
The guy who does the tarmac
Oh,
in Galway. But yes, I've been up the top of both of them. There was a cannon up there.
there were two.
Yeah.
I think
I
The
was
smaller
up
one
there
got
when we were
lost.
caving, 1990ish. We climbed up into it. They're not actually round. They're actually a cloverleaf shape with the three cannon able to swivel. The other thing of interest on here, there's Linan's ice cream and the lobster pond. There was a house there, and there's a sluice gate affair, and they were flooding that and retaining the seawater, and they were growing lobsters in there. And I believe it might have been a man called Bindon Blood, who seemed to have his finger into every pie in the area. Moving on to Ballyvaughan. Now this is just a quick one. I was on the way home one night and it was fairly overcast. As you can see round and all of a sudden this beam of sunlight broke through and lit up Ballyvaughan. So they say that the sun shines upon the righteous. And they're all there. The main place of interest outside Ballyvaughan is the Rhine. If you've never walked along there, it's worth it. It's an interesting walk. It's longer than you think. There's a collapsed wedge tomb halfway out, of all things. It's a strange place for a wedge tomb. But there's a collapsed wedge tomb. There's two shipwrecks. There's a medieval one, which is recorded but not visible. And there's further out, there's just by local rumour, there was a shipwreck which apparently surfaces after storms and things, but it's not visible at the moment. But if you want to find it, look for the lawnmower. Because of all things to market, someone has put an ordinary hand lawnmower out in the sand, stuck up. So go there on a very low tide, out the far end there,
Right.
and look for the lawnmower.
On the seaward side, is it?
There's also that shipwreck. There were 4 sailors drowned, and there are 4 graves, if you know where to look on the Rhine, where they were buried. They obviously didn't take them far, and like a lot of things, they were of unknown religion or origin or whatever, so they couldn't be buried officially. So they were just Also during the war, Second World War, an American fighter aircraft crash landed in the mudflats there. And there's apparently bits of it still around Ballyvaughan in various places. Blackhead, you've all seen. Say you see the way the ice has planed things off. Lighthouse on the corner, and the ring fort on the top, and the green road running around. Interesting spot. And then that's the ring fort, which was Cattle Irrigish. The fort of the King Irrigish, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. That's what you actually see if you walk up there. It's fairly intact, built in sections. Now they don't know whether that was because it was enlarged at various times or whether it was gangs of people having to pay their dues to the king, you know, and do a bit of work for him, so they build a bit. But you'll find there's vertical joints.
There's a vertical joints in a lot of ring forts, actually.
Yeah.
It seems to have been a modus operandi, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's the one at Carrickmorne, it's very obvious.
Yes.
Also in that area, this is Ashkelini, there's a cairn there which started out in Neolithic times. It's been excavated and rebuilt and tidied up. It was Neolithic, and there's medieval things, and the bit on the top now is a modern trig point. So it's been through all the ages. And the other thing...
Is that from all down the bottom there, is it?
The other thing you'll find... Sorry?
Is that from all down the bottom there?
Yeah.
Caravan Park, isn't it?
The other thing you'll find is this little object, which is a strange thing, Carn Su Fin. If you go up there, you'll find this strange monument and this character waiting for a bus. But it's an odd construction, quite cleverly built, and it's a memorial to Finn. And further over there is, so say, the burial place of Bran the Hound. And if you from there, that's the Blackhead looking north, the rear face of it, with the fort up on the top there. But there's interesting down, much lower down, which not many people know about, as they say. And that's that. There's an era sign, small one, which has been tidied up, and there's a large era sign, era 48, and there's the remains of a lookout post from the wartime. And some of the logbooks from these lookout posts are available online, believe it or not. But that was era 48. There was 80 something of them all around the coast of Ireland, because Ireland was neutral at the time and they didn't want bombs dropped on them. The other thing was, it was a handy navigation aid for aircraft crossing the Atlantic. Navigation not being as accurate as it was today. So they knew exactly where they were hitting the coast.
That's number 48. Yeah.
That's number 48. Now, down on Loop Head, there's number 45, which is nicely maintained and painted. 46 was St George's Head at Kilkee, and 47 was House Head. But those two have disappeared without trace. Quick aside, if you're into a nice house, there's one there built by an American gentleman. You get the house and you get Horse Island for a shade under 10 million. I know a man that's been in the house and he said it's decorated in Trump plus style. He said it's glitz and gold and marble, and he said it's as ugly as hell. But it's got a 10-car garage and a helicopter pad and all this sort of thing.
Wow.
So if you're in the money, when you win the lottery.
How did he get planning permission for that?
So, heading south, again on our tour for Nor. Looking towards over. And we'll do a quick turn up the Caher Valley. If you go up the Caher Valley, there's a track that runs between Fourmoyle and Rathborney. And right on the peak of it, there is an old ring fort. And it was a bivalate ring fort with 2 walls, but the outer wall has been robbed and recycled to build a penal chapel and a shebeen. Now, whether the priest had an interest in the shebeen, I don't know, but all your spiritual needs catered for in one place. And it's actually quite good for flowers. That area, you get a lot of flowers up there in May, June. So an interesting spot there. Moving on down the coast, Ballynahown, which is in from the coast. There's this plateau, there's a nice ring fort, and there is an access ramp effectively. There's an easy way up to it, up this sort of grassy path. And at one point on the grassy path, there's almost like a gatehouse. There's buildings which could have been sort of for lookouts or whatever. So that's the ring fort. There's quite a bit of action in the area. There's the ring fort. There's another caher over there with a medieval house in it. And there's various wedge tombs around the top. And there is the ring fort close up. You can see quite thick walls, and they use the natural landscape. There's 4 houses inside the ring fort, and there's another one outside, and you've got the usual sort of little enclosures for stock and things round about. Not sure what they did for water in that area. Same area, there's this lovely little green set of fields, probably, I don't know, 10 acres, something like that, small fields. Obviously been used for many, many years, because there's a ring fort here which is Neolithic, it's been excavated. There's various enclosures round about. There's a holy well down here, and there's a nice little old cabin up there. Now, if your cabin was up there and your fields were down here, you'd want a flight of steps. So if you look in the right place on the cliff, there's actually a rift with boulders wedged in it to make a nice easy staircase. And that cottage on the top.
Sorry, where's this again?
Ballynahown.
Oh, Ballynahown, yeah. Yeah, thank you.
It's a lovely old cottage, quite well preserved. You know, 1-room cabin. There's an outbuilding, shed for whatever. Interesting thing, the gable wall that faces the prevailing weather is mortared with lime mortar to keep the rain out. And nice view of the Aran Islands.
Yeah.
And what do you need? Water. So if you look around there, there's a little well house with a spring. So you can see why they sited their house in that position. And we'll never guess where that is. The cliffs of Mohair. I'll see what happened. That was a good few years ago. That's probably 10, 15 years ago. Hag's Head. North, you know, towards the cliffs of Moher. So the era sign has disappeared from there, unfortunately, but the lookout post is still there, the tower. One thing to notice, if you look to the right, this area, every field has a house in it. And if you fly east from Galway towards Ballinasloe, Athlone, that sort of area, every field has a house in it. So you can see why the ESB have problems with wires all over the place, and every storm they all fall down. You know, there's not a village. It isn't a cluster of houses. It's just wires everywhere. So that's Hag's Head. Go back up a bit towards Listonvarna and swing inland, and this is Cahermacrilla, is the townland. A busy landscape. Ring fort with all their little enclosures and bits and pieces around them. Another ring fort with their enclosures and bits and pieces around them. And then you have a medieval settlement, medieval house with again a few bits and pieces around it. And then you come up to the 1800s with a house there with chimney still standing and a few bits and pieces. And then you get the 1930s cottage stuck in there. So a lot of the landscape is like that. You don't realise it on the ground, but from the air, it's a very busy landscape. And you can see the modern, improved land at the back. Right, we've gone across to Isle. We've ventured across east. There's their birds of prey centre at Arley and the shop and things. There's the show cave entrance. Right. So there you are. And you're looking towards Monine Mountain. That's the next to Monine. You get some lovely patterns in the limestone. They look quite nice from the air. The Islewey Plateau is leading down into Mill Sink, where the water sinks for the show cave. But it's a fairly bleak landscape on top of Islewey. That's it. A lot of my photos you'll notice are brown because I take them in winter for two reasons. One, the vegetation is down, so you can see things. The other is that the sun is low and the light picks up the relief. If you saw that in midsummer with vertical sunlight, it's flat. You don't see the features. So that highlights the features. Not a lot of exciting stuff up there. There's the usual sort of 1800s or thereabouts cottages and things. Mill Sink just off to the left. If you go a little bit south, you've got this bleak landscape all around. All this and all that over there, pretty bleak stuff. But there's this little green oasis. Again, I don't know, 10 acres, little fields, and a nice ring fort. There's the ring fort with a hut circle dead centre, almost. Small enclosures round about. They even made an attempt at a chevaux de frise, you know, where they wedge stones vertically in the limestone to deter people running across it. Various enclosures for them, and a spring which surfaces just there, flows down. There's even a ramp down the side of the ring fort into the field system for easy access, and another spring over here. There's, again, I call them 1800s, I don't know when, cottage ruins in the woods down here. So it's been used from Neolithic times through medieval right up to date. There's a slightly unusual square caher over there with 2 or 3 buildings in it. Not as common as the circular ones. South again to Cragballyconnell. Another multi-period location. A square caher again with a souterrain in it. A circular one with a souterrain in it. various enclosures and field systems. There's a quite nice wedge tomb over in that area, and you have this rather strange natural amphitheatre. I don't know how that occurred, but it's a sort of sunken square amphitheatre.
Where was that?
Crag Valley Common. Take the road opposite Carrick-on, down there along the left. It's a strange, looks like a large feature has collapsed or something. But the landscape is quite cluttered with same sort of area, looking further east. Again, this is listed as an enclosure, but I would have thought it was a ring fort, a 5/8 ring fort. Another one here. There's a ring fort there with a modern 1930s bungalow stuck into it. This is another rectangular ring fort with a souterrain. On Tim Robinson's map, if you look at that area, you'll find a thing that says a strange field, and that is the strange field. It's, have you seen that one?
Yeah. You can't have a noted this studying closely, isn't it?
That's the strange field. It's just behind that green barn. Why it's strange, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's got boulders sticking out of it all over the place. South again to Valley Line, and this is Temple Line. Temple Line Church is there. You can see the circular enclosure that used to be round the church, and there's a small rectangular building in the church. Again, multi-period. There's a ring fort up there, and there's also a medieval house there. And here you have 1800s type cottage again, quite a substantial one. So that land, I know it's been improved now, but it's always been used over the years. That's Temple Line Church today, a very tumbled place. There is a burial ground on the far side, and it was used as a children's burial ground. And Avril Swinfin in her book has got some story of a priest being murdered, but I don't know about that. That's the cottage. It's a very substantial cottage, very solidly built, with a fireplace. Heading on south, I'm sure you know where that is. No? Nobody? Valley Kinvarga, just outside Kilfenora. That's one of only 2 places where I have been refused access. There was a nice elderly lady in a house nearby, and it was her land, and I knocked on the door. Could I walk in and take some pictures, please? No. And that was it. There was no arguments or anything. No. Very solidly built, still with bits of the retaining wall. There's a standing stone apparently in that area. There's a secondary ring fort here with a souterrain, but it always strikes me as looking rather like Father Christmas or something. Playing to Barry Kinvargan. And you have a very obvious chevaux de frise, these pointy stones sticking up to slow her going down.
For defensive reasons.
Yeah.
Remarkable. Neighbours didn't always get on, so to speak.
No, we've gone back east, something completely different, just a view. We're over Pool Coin, Liana, Pool Coin, Liana area. That was on my way home one evening, and the sun was going down, and it just looked different. Mulletmore with Loch Gaylon, Mulletmore, Sleeve Row, Knockhorns, Sleeve na Glasha or Glashgavna up there, Commons North, and this is Cluncoos, and there's a feature there which we'll see in a minute. But you can see how complex the landscape is. That's a more conventional view of Mullockmore. Obviously summertime, going by the level of that.
Yeah.
So Mullockmore, Sleeve Road, Knockhorns, Turlockmore on and Eagle Rock at the back.
Oh yes.
Knockhorns from the other side, looking southeast. Knockhorns, Sleeve Row, and Mullockmore. Just a different view. So, most of my photos might be around 1,800 feet. Most of the Burren is called 1,000 feet. Legally, I'm not. There is air law, just like the rules of the road. I'm not allowed to fly lower than 600 feet above the ground unless I'm landing or taking off. Taking photos, I go round once. I go round and I take several pictures and I go away. I don't go round and round because that'll upset somebody and the horses and you'll get complaints and all that. So I just do one run, take pictures and go away, and if needs be I'll go back another day, a few weeks later.
Do you have some kind of steady cam or?
I was wondering that.
No.
Handheld?
Handheld.
Okay.
My door has a small window that I can open. It's a fairly point and shoot Nikon, but I use it in sport mode. I've got it on
Numbers.
tracking sport mode, and it's on a slow repeat, so I just press and hold and fly past the thing, and you're getting probably sort of 7 or 8 pictures as you go past. I'm sure you know where that is. Cahacommon. Yeah, Cahacommon. You can see the 3 walls, the main wall and the 2 outer walls, and there were huts and stock and what have you in the outer area. You're then running up into Sleeve na Glasha. That's the course of the 7 streams. It comes down that area. There's a layer of chert which is impermeable, so the water doesn't sink. It sort of sinks and rises and sinks and rises, and then falls over the edge as the 7 streams into Tiska. That's Sleeve na Glasha itself. The 7 streams. There's the most isolated cottage I know is that one there. There is no road to it, no nothing. And there were 3 brothers lived there. The 3 brothers called Glyn. And they were herds for an absentee landlord.
They were what, sorry?
Herds for an absentee landlord.
Herdsman.
Yeah. I spoke to an elderly gent in Karen one day who said that they lived on rabbits because the place was overrun with rabbits at the time. And they lived mainly on rabbits, but anything they wanted they had to carry in. Water, there's a large rising there which is the source of the 7 streams. It is a big rising, and you can see roughly the path it takes down here. Say it rises and sinks and rises and sinks. Ring forts galore, a very large wedge tomb with a cabin built on the end of it. They used part of the wedge tomb as a wall, and they built this cabin on the end, and the local story was that was where the Glynn brothers smoked their rabbits to keep them. It was a smokehouse. on the edge there's 7 cairns looking out at the world, burial cairns. Some have been robbed to build a retaining wall along the edge of the cliff. Craggy Island Parochial House.
Oh, right, yeah. Yeah.
But again, a landscape with a lot of things going on. And there's a ring fort up here, not very obvious on that photo.
So what was the area again?
Sleeve na Glasher. Or Sleeve na Glasher. Or Glashgavna.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Kind of like the south side of the Burren.
That's the ring fort at the far end. This is Fahy South, the actual town. It's either Fahy South or I'm not sure. We say Fahy South. Let's stick with that. Again, they've used the natural features to use to defend the ring fort. There's an access ramp that runs in up there. And there's a souterrain in the middle of it all, which is down as a cave. This was the home. This is Mocha na Carton, and it's the home of Lon the Smith, who was the smith for Deidanon, the first man to make an iron sword in Ireland. He had one leg, so he travelled in big leaps and bounds. But to make up for that, he had an extra arm sticking out of his chest, dead handy for hammering the iron. And he lived in a cave, which is the souterrain. There's supposed to be signs of charcoal and things from his ironworking, but I've never seen anything. There's all the stories about Lon the Smith. He had 7 sons, which is why there's 7 streams, and he had the cow that gave endless milk, etc. You can go on for hours about that. But that's Mocha na Carton on Fahy South. Backtracking slightly, Commons North. There's the road that runs across Commons North. There, that's the track down to Bartolink's place in Liala. Again, another multi-period landscape. Every little scrap of land has been used and tidied up. There's a habitation area there, cottages and things, but every little bit has been sort of walled around and improved and used. So it's not the sort of thing you see from the ground, really.
No. That was one of the things I remember some years ago, the archaeological survey by, and they were starting to use aerial photography, and they discovered things. There was one up on the hillside above Ballymun. They hadn't known really anything about it until they saw it in an aerial shot.
This is just south of Commons, Gloomcoos, the road in from the Commons Road. Gloomcoos, the road in down through. There's the cottages, if you know the place at all. The cottage used to be owned by John Merriman, now owned by recently deceased. Was it Betterworth?
Marion.
Sorry?
Marion
Worth, who was the richest woman in Switzerland,
right,
worth $80 billion. And she was going around buying up everything. She bought that.
What is it again?
Gloomcoos.
She bought some land, is it?
There's ring fort around the place. There's Phylactophaea. There's a big spring down there which actually supplies the house. And there's Phylactophaea. Some of these, that little tower there was a John Merriman construction, fairly recent. An enclosure over there, which is not recorded on archaeology.ie, but it's a biggish affair. There's a little cliff, and below the cliff there's some buildings, huts, But the main thing is these two rectangular enclosures. The walls are double skin, thick walls, probably a metre thick, with rubble fill in the centre. Not just for keeping cattle in, they are defensive. And there's two, I don't know if there's two souterrains or it's one souterrain where a bit has collapsed. There's a souterrain in there anyway.
How is it that these souterrains in an area where the soils are so shallow?
Well, they use the natural gripes, you know.
Ah, okay.
You could take out between clints and things, you could take a section out.
Okay, that's possible, isn't it? Look at we got that view.
You could have a bomb-proof souterrain. Heading north, this is Sladu, which is up above Carron. Very poor quality land, as you can see. It's another wintertime shot.
Yeah.
You can see the poor land here, and you can see, I know this land's been improved in modern times, but it's still infinitely better land than this. That is a church, penal chapel again, built in penal times. It's in its own little enclosure. It's actually built in a hollow, so the roof would have been level with the surrounding land. So you can't see it when you walk in until you get almost on the thing, and you suddenly see it sticking up. So it was well hidden. But there's an enclosure, but there's an outer enclosure as well. And you can see lots of other earthworks over the years. And there's a cottage over here, the classic two-room cabin, door in the middle and a window either side. They had their haggard and their vegetable patch and what have you round about. And then either the family got too big or Granny came home or something, and they put a granny flat on the end. And I've seen several cottages around the place, ruins, where a building or a room has been tacked on the end, and it's not, you can tell it's an add-on, because again, a bit like the ring forts, you've got a dead vertical joint. It's not tied into the main building. In the same area, there's this lovely old cottage with a fabulous sycamore tree. And that was, there's a photo in the book of the Burren, which is Anne Corf and what's his name? Jeff O'Connell. There's a photo by Anne Corf of that in the book, and it's got a nice thatched roof. The Anne Corf photo, I reckon, is about 1960s.
No, she wasn't here then.
No?
Anne Corf wasn't.
I saw that thatched.
Probably not.
It was thatched in the late 70s.
Was it?
Yes, it was. And it was inhabited as well.
Oh,
Yes, it was. The inside,
bend.
it's got concrete
Yeah.
floors, the walls are plastered.
That's good.
Right, where's that?
Is it a collapse?
Glenn Cloud, top up.
Then a cloud.
You've got this huge collapsed doling at the top. An interesting spot. You can even see there, that's the Kappa Castle, which is an O'Loughlin Castle in Glencollonkil. But that's, yeah, Glen Cloud. Interesting walk. And the people that seem to own it or occasionally live in the house down here don't seem to mind people walking.
Yeah, so then that's
And little guess where that is. That's Turlock Hill on a lovely evening. We don't get many nice evenings. This year has been a disaster for flying in terms of weather. Not been good at all. The features here, there's a linear cairn, which is a good sort of 50 metres long, with a burial kist, is it, in the middle. Nobody knows why. But it's got it's a commanding spot with amazing views. You've got this circular feature here, and you've got the hilltop itself. Now, the circular feature is that. I got some cows put in for scale. There's handy cows. It's about 100 metres across. It's a low wall. It's not even a metre high. With slabs. It's got lots of access points. There's probably a dozen of them all the way round. There's one there. There's more over here. So it wasn't defensive. It's thought to have been ceremonial. And you have this, they used a natural feature to make an entrance ramp. There's a hut circle just there, which I think might have been the ticket office. And then various points around the outside, there's little hut circles. There's one there, one there, one there, one there. There's these little hut circles stuck around the outside for nobody knows why. But given the commanding position, it was thought to have been a ceremonial site, and the whole world could see that you were doing your thing up there. That's the actual summit of Turlock Hill, the big cairn, large cairn, which still has some of the retaining wall around the base of it. And this is what I say about the light. This is summertime, you can see it's green. You can see vague markings of hut circles around the place. And that's a much more defensive sort of arrangement with the cliff all round it. If you go back in winter, when it's brown and with the low angle of light, there's, I forgot the man's name, but they did a archaeological dig up there not that long ago, 3-4 years ago. They reckon there's 150 hut circles up there. Some they are isolated, others are sort of family jobs where there's 2 or 3 tied together. And there's this strange feature here, which is like a labyrinth or maze, which again they thought was ceremonial. So, say that the lighting makes a big difference to what you see. And there, on a lovely summer's evening, I actually looked up when it was, June 11th, 2019 at 7:40 p.m. I took that. But it's a lovely summer's evening, you've got the sun behind you coming in. Lovely valley, there's the churches there. Do as well would be up, no, it's up in that area, yeah, the well. There's the circular feature, so you can see the sort of view they had from there. And there's the summit of Turlock. Most people, I think, know the Famine Road at Coolorta, don't they? There are several other famine roads around that people don't know about. This is in the Turlock area. On the 1840 map, there was a little farmstead in this area, and that windy road was their access road. And then, come 1840 something, they decide to build a famine road. And they start, and they go all the way through. A bit of it has disappeared where the field was improved. And they get all the way, literally, to there and stop. And you had, I doubt if it's 50 metres, 100 metres to finish it. But it's Friday afternoon, lads, that's it, we're done.
And down far in, it's actually another Burren or something there.
That's the main road, call it the main road. That section of the Famine Road is beautiful. It's got, they put the finish small stone on it, which they haven't at Coolorton. It's been finished. It's got nice walls at the side with capstones all the way along. You know, it's really a fine job and just abandoned. It runs into that hazel and just stops. Right, Turlock Mountain itself. That wall is a barony wall, and I think it runs, Tony will correct me, it runs from just about here, doesn't it, all the way to the sea.
From the Turlock and Carron
Yeah,
in a roundabout way and ends up in the sea. The UK is about 25 kilometres long, I think.
and it separates the barony of Burren from, I believe, Kilmacadua, this side. So you've got that wall going up and over everything. Turlock Mountain, Bouleven, the fields at Bouleven. Now, when I first came over here, I knew a man who found I could drive a tractor. So I was trained in the art of topping and wrapping bales and things. And I spent many happy hours in Bouleven. That's it there. There's some bales awaiting for me. That's Bouleven in, must be close on 25 years ago. And there's features up here. Strange, I don't know how they were created. That's it from, I'm flying overhead Eagle Rock, looking across. And this is Lean Puka Moor and Lean Puka Bjog. Big Goat's Leap and Little Goat's Leap.
Yeah.
It translates as.
So are they the Devil's Pits?
Sorry?
The
No.
Devil's Pits.
No.
No.
It's the Puka's, big Puka's Leap and small Puka's Leap. Ferry.
Don't know how it's formed, but you've got a vertical drop with like a pile of rubble in front of it. It's almost like a terminal moraine type thing. But
Yeah, it's curious.
strange. That's relieving.
It's Eagle's Rock.
You'll never guess where that is. Eagle's
Eagle's
Rock,
Rock.
Peel Hill, with the track in to the oratory, which is in this area here. If you've never done it, there's it's Pat Nable's land, but there's a track up there to a water tank. And you can make your way along that ridge, and it's quite an interesting walk. And there's peregrine falcons nesting in the cliffs, and you can sit and watch them perform. Sleeve Carron, with again a large cairn making a statement to the world. Now it's fairly exposed up there. I don't know much about that cairn, and who it is or what. And then we come back to Optmama Mountain. So this is Optmama, Corker Hill, running up to the chocolate, was it Hazel Mountain chocolate, which I'm sure you know. And again, so you can see the sort of smoothed off faces. So we've come full circle back, and I'm afraid it's time to fly off into the sunset. So we fly up into the sunset, and then you can sit down.
Is there any air in that
You can
shot?
sit down and watch your film.
Where do you land? Where does the plane live?
Where does the
Back to
plane
Rowan
live?
Street.
Fairly close to Galway Airport,
All right.
strangely enough.
Oh.
Behind
Where
a
was
friend's
that?
house, he has a similar thing. It's a man I knew.
Very good.
We have a grass runway.
Is it your own bit of a runway?
It's his.
His.
Doesn't show terribly well. The plough.
Oh yes.
It shows very well.
Oh, so, yeah.
And that's the whole start. So,
That like bunny.
it is.
Is it not funny?
There's the castle at Boston.
I was going to say, yeah.
That was not the first all over.
No.
I made a bit of a bag for the first one. I'd never done it before, and I went to the wrong place. I got photos, but not the best. But this was a couple of years ago. Was it May, I think?
10th of May.
Yeah. It's finding somewhere with a low horizon and no light pollution. But you can still see there's light from Kinvara
Is that what that is?
creeping in.
That was a right.
That was a panorama
That's a brown shot,
of
isn't it?
about 6 shots
Yeah.
stitched together.
Is
It's a 180 degrees sideways and 90 degrees vertical. So that is actually overhead.
Where is it taken from the photograph, like?
I can't tell you.
the exact spot you mean. Put down
It's a
the
secret hideaway at Loch Bunny.
Alright, thanks.
Which you couldn't use at the moment because it's underwater.
Hi.
So that's the tour over, I'm afraid.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.